Hello everybody, I'm joined once again for a Meet the Filmmaker. Today I'm joined with Pat Higgins. Hello, Pat.
Hi, good to be here.
Yeah. So
well I say here, I'm where I always am, but it's good to be talking to someone, basically.
Hi, it's some kind of interaction with somebody.
Yes, indeed.
So the first question for you is, how did you get into filmmaking?
It's what I always wanted to do, really. I think when I was very little, I was taken by cinema completely right from the start. My mum took me to see the re-release of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Giant Squid, all that sort of business in the late 70s. And that just kind of blew my mind. And then along came things like Flash Gordon. And I think, so I was always cinema, always wanted to be involved in cinema. I think at that point, I kind of wanted to be an actor because although I understood it was all fake, I thought it all happened in like real time. So I thought if the job of an actor would be to kind of rock up, save the world, kiss Dale Arden, and then just do a talk show circuit. And so I thought we'd do an hour and a half's worth of work. And then when I found out actually how it worked out, I thought, it doesn't sound as much fun being an actor now. And so I wanted to be more involved in the background stuff. So screenwriting, directing. And so really, I still consider myself a screenwriter more than a director. I kind of fell into the directing thing because initially when I first started writing screenplays, it's very, very difficult to get anyone to pay any attention to a screenplay. It's a lot easier to get people, at least it was back then, easier to get people to pay attention to a completed film. So I ended up directing kind of by default, just because that was the way of getting stuff out of my head and onto a screen. But I was always, I knew from when I was 3 years old I wanted to work in movies, and I just never quit. And so all the people who are far more talented than me all quit along the way, and so somehow it whittled down until I was able to forge a career out of it. So yay me for just not giving up.
Waiting for everybody to drop out so
that's
continue.
basically it. You just need to wait for all the really skilled, talented people to drop out, and eventually they'll go, we still need someone to write this stuff.
Fair enough. So what was your first project? Was it a short film? Was it? I already know, but of course, people that want to know.
Yeah, I came out of uni. I was writing scripts. I was doing unpaid runner work, as is the kind of rite of passage. And then I thought this isn't really getting anywhere. And so other than stuff that I shot at university, my first proper movie came out on DVD. It was in every Blockbuster in England. I shot a movie called Trash House, which was really, with the money that we had in the bank, the technology was right on the cusp of people being able to shoot stuff digitally. And I think that's really the only reason that I've got a career, in that I was able to do it when loads and loads of other people weren't. I mean, nowadays you get hundreds of people every year making British horror movies. Good luck to them. It's a smart way of doing it. But at that point, because the difficulty was the bit beforehand, it was making the damn thing was the thing that was hard, which meant that year there were only 16 British horror movies, which meant that the market's thirsty for it, which meant that even though ours was rough around the edges, or to quote Empire magazine, dodgy tech credits, which is, somewhere around there. But it meant that there were so few things out in the marketplace that we were able to get picked up by Screen Entertainment. We, say multiple copies in every Blockbuster, and we were off and running. So even though our movie was a product of its time, and you look at it now and you go, Jesus, that's not just the special effects but everything, because we had no there was no YouTube, there was no, if you didn't know how to do something, tough, there was no way of finding out. You couldn't find tutorials for this, that and the other. You just fudged the whole thing together. So if you look at it now, you do look at it going, really, that's your idea of green screen work? But back then we got it done at a point where almost nobody else did, and that's where we got a career from. It's not a great movie, but it's a good memory. So.
You haven't actually told anybody what the title of the movie is.
The movie was called Trash House. I might have it. Oh, hang on, I had a pile of DVDs here a minute ago. Oh, I didn't. Honestly, this wasn't me preparing for the interview. I'm actually not that organised. This was for something else. There it is. I've actually got the original DVD. Yes.
There you go.
There you go. So Trash House, came out on DVD, and and was all over the country, which was great for something that was partially shot in my garden. So
I like the fact that you managed to remember the quote from Empire all these years later.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. No, that Empire, that was the first time that like Kim Newman, whose work I'd been reading all my life, that was the first time Kim Newman ever became aware of my stuff. So I swear, it's only like a little mini paragraph, but that almost word for word, clever ideas but dodgy tech credits was the.
Have you ever met the man himself?
Well, we've chatted quite a lot on email, and it's one of those really weird things we've had kind of ongoing, because he's been very kind about some of my later movies. He really liked The Devil's Music. His book Nightmare Movies has a mention of Devil's Music, and then there's a bigger blurb for it in Video Dungeon, has a full kind of review of it. But I've actually never met him face to face. It's been one of these really weird things where it's just never quite happened. We've spoken an awful lot but which is great, because I grew up reading his stuff. I think he's incredibly, influential man when it comes to the way we think about horror, and I'm honoured that he's aware that my little movies exist, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you ever go to Fright Fest or any film festivals? That kind of thing?
Sometimes my Fright Fest attendance has been somewhat plagued by unavailability recently. Certainly, about 10 years ago, I was at Fright Fest every year, but nowadays responsibilities seem to have got in the way every time over the last 2-3 years, which has been really frustrating. But I love Fright Fest; it's an amazing place.
Well, Kim Newman's. I'm pretty sure he's there every year. I mean, I've seen him there. So I think you've probably been there, but you've been sort of crossing paths, but not actually.
Actually, I'm going to confess this now, and Kim Newman has no idea about this either. But I think after I knew he was vaguely aware of me. He'd reviewed 2 of my films, I think, by that point, and I was sat in the row in front of him in Fright Fest, and I didn't dare turn around and say hello, I'm me, because I didn't know whether he knew what I looked like or anything. And at that point I bottled it, and I never said hello, which is a shame, really.
I was going to say,
if you're watching this,
how did you feel knowing Kim Newman was sat behind you when he was watching the film? Did you feel that motion, we just sat there and I'm not going to move?
Yeah, it wasn't my film on that occasion, but yeah, he's a great man.
So, how long have you been doing it as a? I usually put towards how long you've been doing it being paid. So this comes up with various answers.
Ooh, yeah, I think funnily enough, the harsh reality of DVD distribution means that you can never really, a lot of that market's disappeared now anyway, but back when my movies were coming out on DVD in different territories, you could never really anticipate how much you'd get for any given deal. Sometimes you'd end up signing a deal that looked fantastic on paper and get no money for it whatsoever. On other occasions, you'd sign one territory and it would cover the entire production budget of the movie. So all of that stuff was very hit and miss. We didn't actually make any money from Trash House at the end of the day. It was great distribution, it was great publicity for us, but we never got paid. Whereas some of our later movies, as I say, made their money back almost immediately. So I'm trying to think. I think the first paycheck I ever got for any kind of screenwriting work would have been around about 2009, and probably the first paycheck for a movie maybe a couple of years before that. So yeah, but then the first movie that we shot that actually came out on DVD would have been 2007, something like that. So which we shot in 2004. So
well, Trash House has basically put your foot out there, hasn't it? Put the foot in the door and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we did 2 back-to-back after Trash House came out. We did Killer Killer and Hellbride, which we shot back-to-back one summer, which is 2006, which was an incredibly intense summer, but one of my favourites ever. Yeah, that was a good one. And then we shot a movie called The Devil's Music, which was the year after that. And then we got into the Death Tales movies. And then I spent a fallow period, where I was concentrating more on screenwriting. And then I wrote Strippers versus Werewolves and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Well, you kind of answered what you've worked on, so I guess we'll go with, are you currently working on anything?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, I'll get yourself ready. Hang on. Right, there we go, right.
Get comfortable. This may take some time. This isn't going to be one of those interviews where you go, God, I hope he has something to say, because as a general rule of thumb, I don't stop until, Anyway, at the moment, I've got a number of different projects. We had a movie called The House on the Witch Pit, which we shot. It had a public premiere in 2016 at the Horror on Sea Festival, and then I destroyed the physical master copy on stage after it had shown just the once. So that version of that movie, and I destroyed it, and I destroyed the backup on stage after it had screened. So the people who saw it were the only people who ever saw that version of that film. We of course still had the rushes for it, and we went back and completely reassembled it into a different form. We released that for one night, and then we destroyed that one as well. And then the final permanent legacy version, if you like, of The House in the Witch Pit, we did some more shooting for in November, and that's currently being sound mastered. There's a guy called Jai Gungadin at Agent Orange Media. He's been doing all the sound mastering for that, and I've been getting all the files through, and that's all fantastic. So that's been really exciting to hear that movie come together sonically in a very different way to my own cack-handed audio mixes, and so I'm very grateful for all of Jai's work on that, because that movie sounds gangbusters now, whereas it didn't previously. But so that one's locking, and then that will find its way onto some form of permanent media. We've been looking at maybe doing a limited Blu-ray rather than putting it out on digital, because the idea of it just being one more plop in the endless Amazon Prime pool is not the most exciting end result for a movie that's been 5 years in the making. But that's my experimental art house, for want of a better word, horror movie. But we're in we were just at the point of lockdown. We were in pre-production for a movie called Power Tool Cheerleaders versus the Boy Band of the Screeching Dead, which is a musical. It's not a trashy exploitation movie. It's wonderful. It's a big, joyous, blood.
I quite like the title.
Yeah. So do I. We briefly called it Britain's Got Chainsaws, but I liked Power Tool Cheerleaders.
That's for the first one.
Yeah, exactly. Power Tool Cheerleaders versus the Boy Band of the Screeching Dead. So Charlie Bond's producing that, and she's been doing an amazing job pulling all the things together. We've got Danny Thompson in the cast as well. Cy Henty, who's in a lot of my stuff, he's coming back for a role on that. And so we're really geared up to it. We've got 12 songs, and we've got all this sort of stuff. And it was just going into the point where we were having a day's shooting for some promo stuff, and then lockdown happened. And so that's just like, oh, that project is just like, so it's just gone into this bubble of suspended animation, which has been frustrating, I guess. So there's Power Tool Cheerleaders. There's also I wrote a movie called Your Lying Eyes, which I wrote as a spec script, and it got optioned. That was my first stateside script sale. That got optioned stateside, and that production never happened, frustratingly. So the option actually came back to me fairly recently. So I'm back out trying to put together a package for Your Lying Eyes, because that's a much more serious thriller horror kind of thing, and I like that. That's it's a really good script. If I say so myself, it's damn good. It's really, really good. But that's just a matter of working out where that's going to sit in terms of getting together the right production package for it. So we've got that. I've been doing I do sort of live shows as well, where I stand on stage and talk sometimes about horror, sometimes about screenwriting. I've been doing a thing called Write a Movie in 30 Days, which is I did that for the London Screenwriters Festival last month. I did it for the Birmingham Film Festival as well a little while back, and Horror on Sea and whatever. So I've done that at a whole load of places. I've got a book version of that I've been editing and trying to get sorted, and so I'm really busy and I'm knackered all the time, and that's why when someone asks me a question, I just don't stop talking.
Please talk to me. So I'm gonna go back on a couple of things. So what was the reason behind you breaking up the master tape? Is that just so you can go, you've seen the only version of this, that's your privilege in the world, now go?
Yeah, I think so. By the way, this is George. I do just need to introduce George.
Hello, George.
He's an excellent cat. There is a monologue in Hellbride about a kitten that humps everything, and that was George 17 years ago. So he doesn't do that. He's quite an old man now. He doesn't do that anymore. But but that is the cat. So Sorry, what was I saying? You asked me a question. I got distracted talking about the cat.
It was about the master tape. Why did?
Oh,
what,
yeah,
what was the reason behind smashing it up and whatever else?
Yeah, I thought I was fed up with the idea of everything being with the whole idea of infinite content, the whole idea that you can turn something, you can just go, oh, I'll watch that film, or shall I watch that film, or shall I, and everything just becomes an endless competition. I think that the idea of scarce availability is one of the real creative drivers that we need. It's like, when I was a kid, why did people watch Ghoulies? People watched Ghoulies because Critters was out at the video shop and Gremlins was out at the video shop, and they go, well, I kind of want to see Gremlins or Critters, so I'll watch this other thing that's a bit like it. And that meant that all these other sort of lower budget forms of creativity still had a marketplace, whereas now it feels like, because there's infinite digital copies of Gremlins, not only who would watch Ghoulies, but who would watch Critters. And that idea of everything always being available all the time, I really like the idea that I could just go, yeah, you want to see this? Well, tough. You can't. I've just smashed it. Tough. So yeah, there was a little bit of devilment that I thought that there was something quite appealing about that. And then the idea of putting it together in a completely different shape and then doing the same thing again also kind of appealed to me. We put a trailer up for one day, then we got rid of that. And I like the idea of things being scarce, I guess. I think it's a lost art in this age of infinite content. So that was it, really, I guess. And then the reason that we've decided to lock it was I can't just let it dominate an entire decade of my career, particularly as it's a micro-budget art house movie, basically. It's the least accessible thing I've ever done. And it's also me going around telling people, oh, this is how you write a screenplay. I spend a lot of time standing on stage just saying, this is how you write a screenplay. Then for the only film that I've directed in the last 5 years to be borderline incomprehensible, because that's by design the way that I built it like a puzzle box. It's not very on brand for that to be the thing that I'm working on. So I kind of go, yeah, I'm going to lock that in shape, and then we'll move on and we'll do some accessible, audience-friendly stuff like Power Tool Cheerleaders again.
So in regards to Power Tools, who's writing the songs for that? Is that you, or you just got someone, a musician coming on board?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough for a number of movies. I've worked with a guy called Phil Sheldon who scored a number of my films, going all the way back. Where are we now? About 14 years or so. He didn't score Trash House, and he didn't score. He did some elements of Hellboy, but not all of it. But everything from Killer Killer onwards, he scored. And Phil, basically, when we worked on The Devil's Music, which is a fake rock and roll documentary, and that's got a load of pop songs in it, kind of thing, Phil, I would record these awful tinny demos of just me singing into, whatever microphone was there, and I'd send them over to him and go, like this, and he'd go, jeez. And then, because he can play every instrument known to man, it would come back as this brilliantly created piece of pop music. And that movie had like a kind of hard-edged rock and roll star and a boy band singer, and he was able to do both of those. And so that's where I kind of thought, wow, we can really explore the kind of music side of it. Because I love the idea of writing music. It's just that I can't play anything worth a damn, and I can't sing either. So it gets me to be able to go, yeah, I wrote that song. It was in my head all along, by having someone really, really talented pick through the bits of whatever crap I managed to get out of my brain and go, how can I turn this into something that normal human beings would want to listen to? And he's really good at it. And I'm good at words. I mean, I believe in, knowing your strengths. I can't sing or play. I can do words. And so I get the words in place, get some kind of chord structure to it, and Phil can turn it into, a power ballad or whatever we need. And he's a genius for that stuff. I'm so lucky to have him as a collaborator.
So in regards to the endless streaming things, as you can see behind me,
I media for the win, definitely.
I'm more of a physical media thing. So if you do ever put stuff out on physical, I'm more of that, because the amount of people that's gone, oh, I got rid of all my DVDs or Blu-rays when Netflix and everything started coming out.
Never.
And then they go, oh, I can't find that thing I've been looking for, because of course it only stays on there for so long. As long as people are clicking it and the algorithm says people are still buying it or whatever, then it stays on there. As soon as it drops under a certain number, they get rid of it. So then that person has to go back out and buy the film they want to watch. So I just stick with physical media. It's easier. So Here's a question for you, which I'm sure you're going to have lots of stuff to do. So, what advice would you give to people wanting to get into the film industry?
This is a difficult one. I used to have a kind of stock answer, which was go out and do it yourself. Just go and do it yourself and draw attention to yourself and whatever. There's so many people doing that. I'm not sure that advice holds true anymore. I then went through a period of sarcastically answering that question. Anybody who wants to get into the film industry, don't. There's very little work out there. I want all of it. So just stay at home, watch stuff, eat some Oreos, and that's fine.
Okay, we'll take that as your answer. Right.
So I went through that, and then I thought, Christ, I hope everybody realizes I'm being sarcastic here, because I'm quite an enthusiastic kind of dude, and I hate the idea that someone goes, oh yeah, it's really difficult, because it is really difficult. But the great advantage of it being really difficult is that great people give up every day, and so every day they give up, you just need to hang in there. You just need to. So the two bits of advice are never, ever, 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 ever give up, because every day you get closer. Every day you don't give up, you get closer. And the other bit of advice is be really lovely to everybody you ever meet. Never give people a reason to not recommend you for something. Try and treat people with love and compassion and understanding, because it's very, very difficult out there for all of us. Make sure that you give people opportunities as well, and so then maybe people will return that favor if they're in the position to give you an opportunity. So treating people with love, care, respect and compassion, and never, ever, ever giving up are the two things, I'd say.
Seems perfectly acceptable advice. So yeah. So it's the last one. Promote yourself.
Oh,
YouTube. Why? You thought it was going to be something bad?
No. I don't know what to plug.
Hey, promote yourself, channel or website, or talk about any projects that maybe you can talk about. Maybe you have projects you shouldn't be talking about just yet. I don't know.
I have. Yeah, I did a. There's a whole bunch of ones that I'd love to talk about that I can't. I did months of rewrites on a project that's quite high profile at the moment, but I'm on a non-disclosure agreement on that, so I can't. I've done loads and loads of bits and pieces here and there. But so yeah, I direct people towards, depending on when this goes up, London Screenwriters Festival 365, which is an online version of the London Screenwriters Festival. You can get my sessions for Write a Movie in 30 Days. There's also one about using childhood fears to create horror. Those sessions are really good, but that festival as a whole is fantastic. There's been brilliant people on there. They had Beck and Woods, who did A Quiet Place. They did a Q&A with them last week. There's loads of brilliant sessions on there, and it's about $5 a month. And so if you sign up to that, you've got all this sort of stuff. So if you've got any interest in screenwriting, go for that. If you're interested in my stuff, there's like 12 years of blog, more than that, 15 years of blog on pathiggins.me.uk. And it has live dates for when I'm allowed out of the house again, which might not be for a while.
Yes.
Yeah, but anytime I do all that, the live dates and stuff go up on there. What other things do I need to plug? I'm Zedcars Theme on Twitter, which was a stupid bloody idea for a Twitter handle, but now I've been plugging it for 10 years. So rather than being Pat Higgins, it's just Zedcars Theme altogether, one word.
How many people have gone, what's Zedcars?
Yeah, absolutely. Or there's a football team, I don't even know who it is, who have that as like the Zedcars theme as their anthem, and so people make assumptions about my football allegiances that aren't on the money either. So it was a really stupid idea to have that, but now I've had it for 10 years and I've plugged it on enough interviews and podcasts.
It's too late now. It's stuck out there.
Yeah, it was actually my AOL username in like 1996, which is. That's where it's crept through. But so yeah, I'm Zedcars Theme on Twitter, all those other things, and it's always good to chat to people, and I reach out and say hello. It's all good.
Please talk to me.
yeah, exactly. I'm very, very lonely. I'm very, very busy actually, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's been lovely to chat with you, and we'll bring this to an end.
Fantastic. Thank you everybody for listening to me talk so much.